Tampa Bay Spirits presents Haunted Campfire Tales Live. Welcome. Gather around the fire. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. The true ghost tales are about to unfold.
Hello there. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, Chris Chrisman said it's working on LinkedIn, so.
Well, that's good news.
Yep. And he also says good evening. Good evening, Chris. And Paul Hollis says, hello, Tampa Bay Spirits. Hello, Paul Hollis.
Hey,
We're glad to have you here.
Hi.
If you're having trouble getting in, remember if you're on the
Group page.
Okay, I can see that we are. Okay, it says Facebook user. Hey, Robin, Joan, and everyone. You are probably on the Tampa Bay Spirit Facebook page, so that means you have to give StreamYard permission to use your name. So we'll put that up right now. If you can read it, it's right on the ticker on the bottom there.
Because otherwise we'll just know that you are a Facebook user. We won't know who you are.
Yeah. Rosalind Reed said, I'm on YouTube. It's working fine. That's good.
Hey, Rosalind.
And another Facebook user said, hey there. And Chris Chrisman said, that was Joe Conjo. Oh, Joe Conjo. You need to give him permission to use your name. Marjorie Deering said, I missed last night's podcast, simple explanation, memory glitch. I remember tonight, though. Yeah. Well, welcome to our podcast. We're now official podcast. That's why we had the Paul Hollis says, hi, Joe. That's the commercial on for WLFEDB. Oh, Kristen Lee Barja. Hi, Kirsten, I'm sorry. We're so glad you could show up. Hey, Tampa Bay Spirits from Florida originally. Aha. Well,
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To be from here originally.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Okay. All right. We're having trouble with the guests, trouble getting in. So any one of you may go ahead and talk while I try and figure this out.
So our theme tonight is dreams, dreams that come true, premonition type, precognition, whatever you want to call it.
Here she is. Sorry.
Welcome, Trish.
Hello, Trish.
Hello. We're having technical difficulties. I thought
that's okay.
I didn't know I was going to be on camera, and then Brad was like, let me get everything set up. So, hi.
Surprise.
Yeah. Okay.
There's George.
Okay. This Facebook user is George D.
Hi, George D.
Okay. Can you see the ticker that's going along the bottom, George? You have to grant StreamYard permission to see your name. and you go to
Otherwise,
StreamYard.com forward
Just
slash
put George on
Facebook.
all your
Yeah,
comments.
or
and we'll
just
know.
at the end of your comments say George.
That'll make it easy for you. Anyway, our theme tonight is dreams. And
Okay, this must be Joe again. It says, hi, everyone. Now you can see who it is. And
no, we can't.
your
Joe.
name is Joe. Yeah.
Facebook user. That's your last name is user. First name, Facebook.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
It's going to be what we had one of these nights last night on our podcast last night. None of our Facebook people could get in at all.
Yeah. That's a silly thing with Facebook and their group pages because it originates on a group page. So you have to, that's their rule. So until they change it, we're stuck with that.
Yeah.
So, but if you go on any of the other Facebook links, you're going to
George
show up.
says, am I getting in? Yes, George, we can see you. Just put your name in so that we know it's you. And Joe Conchel says, dang, yes, it's Joe. Just say Joe.
Just sign each one of your comments.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all.
Then we'll know it's you. Which is, this is such a
This is supposed to be easy.
stupid rule that Facebook has for StreamYard, only for group pages.
There
So
you go.
anyway, we do have one letter to read for Dream.
Mhm.
And we want to encourage anyone that's listening or watching, because this is now an official podcast. So this will go out. People will be listening to this tomorrow on all of the podcast channels. If any of you who are listening, pardon me? Did someone say something?
I think it was your voice echoing.
It was an echo.
Oh, my goodness.
That was a loud echo.
Ooh, that's not good.
All right.
This is all sorts of fun.
Yeah.
So,
I could whisper and say,
That does make it spookier.
Or ASMR.
It sets a tone.
I think George is ready for a good ghost story. Right, George?
did you even do the opening?
Mhm.
The haunted?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes. Here. Okay, who would like to start with their story?
First of all, George says, okay, I'm bathed and dappled and ready for bed. So now scare the crap out of me.
Ooh. Oh, that may not do.
Chris Chrisman said, congratulations on the podcast. Rosalind Reed said, oh, that was an EVP.
Maybe it wasn't. That's good. That's good.
I can go first.
Okay. First of all, I dreamt that you saw my name, Joe. All right, go ahead. You're going to tell a ghost story though, right? It's not a precog dream.
Well, it's a ghost story that involves a dream, like kind of dreaming. So I'll tell it, and then you'll see it's kind of both. So this was years ago, and I was living with my ex and 2 girls, and I woke up one morning and I wanted to go into the computer room, which was at the other end of the house. And I went into the computer room, and that door was always closed. It wasn't used often. And things were all like, not it wasn't like it was all messed up, but the computer mouse was on the complete opposite side of the desk tray. There's like a desk tray. And that was like the 3rd time that had happened. And I couldn't understand how it could switch, because you couldn't just move it from the keyboard to the other side. The way that it was moved, it was like it was taken off under the keyboard, put over, because the way that the keyboard was, the cord was so thick, you couldn't just move the mouse over. The cord would have been stuck. So I figured one of my daughters had moved it. And I didn't understand because they didn't move the mouse pad. And none of us are left-handed. And it would always be like on the left-hand side. And I was really frustrated. I was like, that's so weird. So I had to get under the desk again and move it. And also I noticed that the chair was like in the middle of the room. So I was on the computer and I had the office door open, the computer room door open, and my older daughter had woken up and she came in. She kind of poked her head in and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I was researching or whatever. And she wouldn't come in the room. And she said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Hey, by the way, were you in here?" And she was like, "No." The way she said it was like, I was kind of feeling like, okay, maybe she thinks I'm mad at her. And I said, do you keep moving the mouse pad or the mouse, to the other side of the keyboard? And she said, "No." And I said, "Have the dogs been in here? Like, I'm trying to figure out how this could be." And she's like, "Mom, there's something in that room." And as soon as she said that, I just got chills and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "The door kept opening and closing all night." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, the door kept opening and closing." And she said, I don't like it in there. I don't go in there anymore." So with that, I just jumped up and I ran out because I was like freaked out at that point. So I went into my bedroom and did what any grown woman would do. And I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, there's something going on in the house." And then the girls
Mom
were
was like,
yeah. So
"Yay!"
so she's like, "Okay, go down there." And I'm like, "I don't want to go down there. I'm like freaked out right now." And she's like, "No, go down there because I don't like that you're scared." I said, "Okay." So I go all the way down to the house at other end where the computer room is. And she said, "Put me on speakerphone." So I did. And she said, "Am I on speakerphone?" I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you in the computer room?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to go in there." And she goes, "You need to be in there." So I just put my arm in with the phone. I was like, "Yeah, okay, the phone's in." And she said, "All right, listen, whoever you are, we know you're here, but stop it. Do not mess with my daughter or my granddaughters. You've made your presence known. That's it." And I was like, "Okay." And I like shut the door and ran away. I was totally scared about it. So anyway, there were other things that happened in that house, very like poltergeist type of stuff. And that house was, we were the second owners. It was brand new, like a year old when we bought it. So it wasn't like, an old house or anything like that. But anyway, my older sister lives in California. And so I go back into my bedroom and I'm getting dressed because I'd been in my pajamas. And she texts me and she said, "Hey, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" And she was like, "I just had the weirdest dream. I dreamed that I was visiting you and I was sleeping in your computer room. Like you made a bed for me and there was a ghost in there and it was like messing stuff up with the computer." And I about lost it because I was like, "Did Mom talk to you?" And she's like, "No, I just woke up." And was like, "That's so weird." She said it felt so real. And I was like, "Mom talked to you." Like, I was like, you're pranking me or something. Like, she's like, Why do you say that?" And I was like, "You have to call me right now." And she's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" So I told her. She, and she was like freaking out. I was freaking out. So I told Mom, but that's how it's a ghost story and a dream. So we were being haunted basically, and my sister dreamed it, which is really on the other side from Florida to California. Very, very weird.
Long distance, yeah. Nationwide haunting.
I was not freaked out, but I was like, "Knock it off. Don't bug my kids and grandkids." Paul Hollis says, "It was me." I'm like,
You were
Mystery solved. He's also invisible. He hasn't mentioned that part. But
Did it
the
leave?
left-handedness, that's notable.
Did the ghost leave or the entity or whatever? Did it leave?
no.
No,
No,
a lot of stuff happened,
I
but
didn't tell it to leave.
yeah.
I told it
Oh,
to
you just
stop
said knock it off.
bothering her.
Yeah.
I
It
said,
stopped bothering me. I'll say that. It did one more thing to me, kind of, but it was, I think it might have been attached to my older daughter. So
Paul said yes, and I am hollow too. He wrote the Hollow Man
The
series.
Hollow Man mystery series. Paul.
I know we've got a great audience. You gotta love them. You really do. Yeah, no, I didn't ask it to leave. I just said, leave my daughter and my granddaughters alone. Knock it off. We know you're there. We get it. Okay.
Oh, we have one.
We have a story to share. This is Joe Conjal. Joe, your name is showing up now.
Yes, finally.
You want to read that?
Yeah, this is Joe. When my dad passed away back in 1997, I had a recurring dream about him that was so realistic it made me question whether he actually had died.
Oh,
It would start in the church with his service and then jump to him being in my house with me. We would carry on a conversation that felt amazing, real, to the point that it has stayed with me for over 25 years. A very strange feeling.
oh, that's nice. I think that was your dad.
That's
That's
very
cool.
nice.
Yeah, for sure that was
Very
your dad.
strange, but very nice, I would think.
Yeah,
I
I don't think it was strange. I think it was
No,
nice.
he said very strange.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's nice.
Right, I do too.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's your dad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Who wants to tell their story next?
I guess I will.
Okie dokie.
All righty.
Well, I kind of grew up with listening to my grandmother talk about a lot of things that had happened, from like apparitions to premonitions and things. But I had really, until I was an adult, I really hadn't experienced anything like that. But this was a dream. I was in my dream. I was, and I lived a long way from my brother. I was in Michigan and he was in Louisiana, and I was in his home, and I was upstairs and it was dark, but there were like little night lights, so I could see my nephew was like 18 months to 2 years or something. He was in his crib, and then I walked across the hall and past the stairs that went downstairs to, and I mean, it was like I was there in my brother and sister-in-law's room, and all of a sudden there was this huge flash, like outside, and of light, and then it was like things started shaking, and then I saw my brother and a sister-in-law get up and run. And of course, they were like, I don't know what they were saying, but it was just like noise, they were just panicked, and they ran over and grabbed my nephew, and they made their way down the stairs as they were like holding on. And then I woke up, and I woke up my husband, and I said, I had the worst dream. Something happened, and I never had anything like that. And I said, I wonder if I should call him. And he's like, you just had a bad dream, and don't worry about it. You can't call him in the middle of the night, and just wait till tomorrow. Well, I knew I had to be at work really early the next morning, so I thought I'll call him when I get home tomorrow. And so when I got home the next evening, we always got the afternoon paper, and I picked it up as I went in and opened it up. And just a couple of miles from him, there was a refinery, and it had blown up. And I guess it had shaken a lot of the houses and everything in the area. And I called him, and I said, I read this, and he said, oh yeah. He said, we think there's structural damage in the house. And I said, what happened? And he described to me everything that had happened in my dream. And I was like, I couldn't even believe that happened. The other thing was more and I guess it wasn't a premonition that I knew what was happening, but it was that I knew for some reason my husband and I were off during the middle of the week, and it was like sometime in the morning, and he wanted to put in a video, and all of a sudden I just felt like I needed to call my mom. And she lived in Alabama, and she's a nurse, and she worked like the evening shift. And he's like, your mom's going to be asleep. And I'm like, I just feel like I need to call her. And so I just jumped up. I mean, I hadn't been thinking about her or anything. I just jumped up and I called her, and I woke her up, and I said, Mom, are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm fine. She said, I'd love to talk to you, but I have to be at work. Do you mind if I go back to sleep and talk to you later? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to check in. Well, what happened after that on her end is she just thought it was very hot. She lived in an apartment building. She thought it was very hot. She went and opened the window and went back to sleep. And a couple of hours later, she lived in Huntsville, Alabama, and a tornado. Her apartment sat on the hill, and the tornado went through the valley right there, just wiping everything below out, and all of the windows, because she was facing the where the tornado went through. All the windows blew out, and since it was during the day, most people weren't in their bedrooms, so there wasn't. But since she got up and opened her window, her windows did not blow out, or her bed was right in view of that. And so that was the other thing. And she probably would have been really hurt if that had happened.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's way cool.
Neat.
That's probably why you're worried about tarot cards. Both your premonition dreams involve, tragedy,
Right.
really.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll do one about those, like the tarot cards and palm reading, because I have seen some really wild things come from from those two that ended up being premonitions too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, we could probably ask Rosalind. She reads.
Yeah, Rosalind.
Yeah.
She reads tarot. Chris Chrisman says, wait a minute, I'll bring it right up. My grandmother had premonitions all the time, so I grew up used to these things. And also we have a letter from Chris that we're going to read in a little while. Robin, do you want to tell your premonition dream next? And then I know Beth has two that she'd like to.
Yes. There's so many of them. I'm not sure which one I should. It reached the point where, like, both my husband's and my kids something would happen and they'd say, why didn't you know? I'm like, I can't pick and choose. I can't help it. But I know I talked about the one before, but I thought when we were talking last time. But I'm going to tell this other thing that happened, because not all premonitions, are related to dreams, and sometimes they're a combination of waking and sleeping. Mm-hmm. And years ago, I actually started like seeing things in the night. Like if we were driving somewhere, the first thing that happened was that I turned and I looked and I said to my husband, I said, there's a strange truck to be driving down this road. I said, it's carrying caskets. And he's like, what? And he looks, he goes, that's just a regular pickup truck. I'm like, and then I looked and I realized, yeah, he was right. That's all it was. And then like another week later, but at that point, I started to get bad feelings every day, like something was coming, but I had no idea what. And then about a week later, I thought I saw a graveyard in a farmer's field. And I knew that wasn't right because I'd passed it a million times, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then we had been somewhere and we came home, and at the time, a friend of his lived downstairs, and he came up and he said, your stepmother called. She said she'll just call you back in the morning, or you can call her. And, not that there was anything bad going on or whatever. And I went to bed, but before I went to sleep, I said to my husband, I said, can you please leave the good car and take the other car to work? And he said, why? Do you feel like you're going to need it? And I said, yes. He said, well, look, says, just call me, I'll come back. Because he was so used to things happening, but not always. They didn't always. So, he said, just call me and I'll come back with that car. So in the morning, he left and I fell back asleep and I had a dream. And this is like not a real clear dream, not one where you could say, I saw, like Joy just said, saw everything happening. It was a dream where I had gone with my stepmother and my father and my brother, my best friend and a little boy to the woods in Pennsylvania. At the time, I was living in Jersey. I wasn't living here. And when we got there, we stopped at a restaurant, and I had to leave my stepmother and my father behind with my brother, because in my dream, he was too sick to continue with us. So my friend and I took this little boy out into the woods and set him on a stone. And this is like where it gets really bizarre and abstract, but we set him on a stone and floated him out away across the water. And I woke up. And as soon as I woke up, I was like, oh God, I got to call my stepmother. I got to call her right now. And I called her, and she told me that my cousin had died. He had left where he was stationed in North Carolina and had gone to Pennsylvania and died in the woods.
Oh,
And wasn't a clear, there was nothing clearly telling me anything until I had the end result. But
Right,
it was like
right.
weeks of expecting something was going to happen. And it was tragic too. But so that's mine.
Well,
thanks.
Sure.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was.
Kidding. That's good.
It was.
No,
It wasn't
that's-
like the one the other day where I said that, where I was up in the car with my son, and we were going around that blind curve, and I said, watch out for the truck in the middle of the road. He's like, what truck? And he comes around the corner, and there's a truck right in the middle of the road, but he was prepared then.
Yeah.
Just a heads up.
Joe Conjal says, that is wild, Robin. In my opinion, premonitions are so much stronger than a dream. Yeah. Well, and she had both.
Right,
So,
right.
First, I have to show you this, okay? This is an empty chair.
Hello, Tom.
Because we used to be on a lot of podcasts with Tom, and we would be on a vodcast, and all you would see was Tom's empty chair.
He'd get up and go somewhere, and his chair would be there, but he wouldn't be.
Tom
so,
wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But now he actually has something to say. I am familiar with wooded areas in Pennsylvania, especially around the Philly area. Yeah, he has a podcast where he talks about all of them.
Yeah.
It's a very good
Really
podcast
good
too. You should
podcast,
look it
yeah.
up because
Oh, nice. Okay.
it's really, really interesting.
Okay.
Actually, it's a YouTube. It's not a podcast. Chris Kurtzman said, when I get these warnings, I just stay on guard until whatever happens, which is what his email to us is about. And I'll read that later. But I know, Beth, you have a couple of things that you would like to share.
Yes. The first I did. Okay, go ahead. The first one happened whenever I was junior high age, and 11, 12 years old, something like that. Had a dream, and in the dream, I was at school. There was a lot of chaos happening at school, and I found myself in a room that was, interestingly enough, it was pink and purple, and in a very large room, a lot of children and adults just walking around trying to quiet the children down and calm them down. So I had no idea what this dream meant, but it kind of stuck with me. The very next day, our school was evacuated for a bomb threat, and we walked across the street to the high school where they had just refinished their auditorium. It was, of course, pink and purple. And again, the children were all chaotic, as a group of middle school children would be, and teachers walking around calming everyone down.
Wow.
It was so interesting to me at that age. I was like, there is something wrong with me. How did I know this was happening?
It makes you wonder, right?
It did. I believe that was my guides trying to warn me that everything was going to be okay. Of course, it was a bomb threat, and nothing was found, and everything was okay. But it did make me start to wonder why I was seeing these things. So that one was
You
kind
still wonder why?
I don't wonder why any longer. I am positive that was my guides trying to give me a heads up. This is what's going to happen, and not to be concerned or worried at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The second, I have permission from my son to talk about because he's at baseball with his kids. This happened mostly to him, and it wasn't a dream, it was a premonition. Live in St. Pete, and I worked in downtown St. Pete, and the circus was coming to town. And we had made a plan to leave work and go. When you went to this building, a lot of the animals were out, and you can see them, and you can go before the circus. You could just see the elephants out on this lot, in the parking lot. And I had planned to take the kids and go do that with them. My son was 10 at the time. And a few days before we were scheduled to go, he said, "Mom, what would happen if the circus train caught fire? What would happen to all the animals?" And I said, "Joe, don't worry about something like that. That's not going to happen. It's going to be just fine. And we'll get to go see the animals in a few days, and then we'll have tickets to see the circus." The day before we were to go, the train actually had an accident. It was in Lakeland. Had an accident. The train caught fire, and many of the animals and I believe 2 other people died.
Wow.
And my son, who's 10, was so distraught.
Yeah.
"Mom, I made it happen. I made it happen. I made those animals die."
Oh,
It was very upsetting to him, and it took a lot of talking him through and trying to teach him at that age what a premonition was and why he would have it. And it was a little scary for all of us, but especially for him.
Yeah. That's a strong premonition, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Okay, and just a second. I do want to bring up Tom's YouTube and say it out loud, because podcast tomorrow, nobody will be able to read this. So go to YouTube to This Is Tom's World, and you'll find his YouTube channel, and it's really good. That's that's difficult, I think. When I said, "Do you know why?" I know that you know how it happens, but that's like your son's premonition. You wonder, why did he get that premonition?
Yeah.
He couldn't help anyone. I mean, he was only 10. I'll tell you my premonition dream, one of my premonition dreams, the mundane one, because it's one of those where I like, did I really need that information? I was dreaming and that my grandfather was having all of his teeth extracted. Yeah, that's a weird dream, right? So I woke up in the morning and I called my mom and I said, "I had a really crazy dream last night, Mom. I dreamt that all of Papa's teeth were extracted." And she said, "You have got to stop doing that." And I said, "What?" She said, "He's in surgery right now, having all of his teeth extracted."
oh no.
And dentures put in. She said, "I'm tired of you telling me things that are going to happen."
Reminds me, Jess, of our dream that we had that was the same dream. That's like, why?
Yeah, that was a weird one. We were, I was at Trisha's my sister, for those of you who don't know. And
And they're both our daughter.
Rob and Jonah are parents. And we were all of us were at Trisha's house. She lived over on the other coast of Florida, near the NASA headquarters there. And they were going to have a launch, and my dad got to be there for the launch because is it okay that I say all this, Dad?
I know he was a controller.
Okay, yeah, he used to work for the FAA. He's a CIA agent. No, I'm just kidding. But
The FAA is still looking for me.
yeah, he worked for the FAA, so he got to be there for this launch, and so it was pretty cool. And the launch was like going to be super early in the morning, and he was the only one that was allowed to actually go in the control room and everything. So we were watching because
It was on the Sunshine Network, right? That they were playing it live.
They have a channel there for local TV where you can watch actually the control room. And so my sister and I stayed up really late. Mom was asleep, I think, and we were staying up really late, like watching for my dad, like just in case he would like be there, and just watching like what was going on with the launch and everything.
Because we're nerds.
Yeah. Wild Saturday night, we're like, let's watch the NASA control room. And so we ended up, because we are such party animals, we fell asleep on the couch watching this riveting content. And I woke up, I had this dream, and the dream was that I was in space with my sister, Trish, and that we were like on a space shuttle or station, and we were doing a spacewalk, and like we were doing some sort of repairs to the space station or the shuttle. And something happened, and like one of us lost our footing or something like that. I don't remember the specifics of who lost their footing or whatever.
That's weird because I don't either.
Okay, well, so we were holding on to each other in the dream, like arms reached above our heads like this, like straight up in the air, and our arms were linked. So arm to arm. I don't know how to explain that in audio.
Kind of like on a trapeze, like when you see people on a trapeze, right? Yeah.
Yes. If you see someone catch someone on a trapeze, we were holding on like that. And I
This is
woke
important.
up. This is important because I did wake up and I was holding my sister that way. And she was holding me.
We've fallen asleep on my
couch.
sectional, so
yeah, so like head to head, our arms are intertwined, holding on for dear life. And she woke up too, and I was like, I just had the weirdest dream that we were, in space, and that we were holding each other because one of us was gonna float away, and I explained everything, and then I was like, and then I woke up, we were holding each other, and she said, I had the same dream. So we were both dreaming the same dream at the same time.
That is wild.
That's funny.
Which is just, it's just not really a premonition or anything. It's just a weird.
But that whole day, because then we go to Kennedy Space Center that day, and that whole day we kept saying the same thing at the same time. It was really, really bizarre. Like we were both like, stop it. Like we'd both say something. Mom would be like, what do you guys want for lunch? And we'd be like, burgers. Stop it.
This is what it's like to grow up in a gifted family.
One sister, I'm surprised Barb didn't call us like,
say,
hey,
I had a dream.
I just had a dream that you guys were like holding on to each other and I was in the space station.
We're gonna have to change the name of this to the Haunted Comedy Tales.
But I do have a thought on, Mom, you were saying like, why do we have these premonitions that are things like that? You can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the point? I mean, I think Chris in the comments was saying that it could be, you can be on guard for something, and Robin, it was your story about your son in the truck, and okay, like he was kind of prepared for what's going on, what's going to happen, and then there was a truck there, right? So those you're kind of like, okay, that had some kind of purpose to it. I feel the same way about what I talked about last month. I don't want to repeat myself all over again, but I before I got pregnant with my daughter, had a sentence pop into my head that was, this time next year you're going to be holding your happy, healthy baby girl. It was very vivid in my mind. Like, it, I wasn't thinking about that at all. I was walking into work, actually. I just parked and got out of my car. I was walking into the building, and that was very comforting to me through the pregnancy because of other things that had gone on with stuff we'd experienced in our family. And it was very comforting because I knew it. Like, it was, I, there was never a moment where I was worried, and my pregnancy went very long. And I was, what, 42 weeks, I think, to the day that, you know, when she was born. So she was like, oh, quote unquote overdue, but perfectly healthy. And I wasn't ever worried or stressed. Like, I just knew she was going to be fine. So all of those scenarios, like, you can kind of go, okay, here's something I got from that, or here's some sort of purpose it served, right? These premonitions or dreams served some sort of purpose for you. But I feel like sometimes those little things, like your son having that, Beth with the circus and the train car and going, oh my gosh, or you with the gymnasium. I mean, that, again, that was comforting to you because you had been through it in your dream and kind of knew, oh, it's going to be okay. But sometimes those things can be almost like practice, I feel like, to listening to that voice, so that when they do come up later, and especially if you, like, you know, your son, Beth, he told you about it, and then it was confirmed by it actually happening and going, oh, what was that? And then you were able to, even though I have a 10-year-old and he's very, very, has a very sensitive heart, and that would be pretty devastating for him too. So I feel for him, but those things can be like almost practice to, like, hearing that voice. And that's kind of what we were talking about last month as well. Like, if you can find a safe place to share it, like you were the safe place for your son to talk about those things and talk through it. If you can find someone who is a safe person or place for you to share those things, and then you get confirmation on them, and you know, because you've shared it already, and it can be kind of a practice for you're hearing that thing, and you can recognize that kind of voice of those guides, or that intuition, or whatever, you know, you perceive it to be later, and you can feel confident in knowing, like, okay, this is something, I know this, I'm familiar with this voice, right? Like,
that's
Exactly.
an interesting take, because at the time, my son, who is very sensitive, he was seeing spirit prior to this. So that's an interesting take. So maybe he was given something that was tangible to say, okay, you know, this is something that you can do. This is something that you can see sometimes. So it might have been type of practice for him, or something to clue him in that, you know, we all, if we're sensitive, think we're kind of crazy.
We do.
yeah.
And maybe that was to help reassure him that, yes, the things you're seeing and experiencing are real. So that's an
Exactly.
interesting take, Jesse. I like that.
I also feel like it's an ability, right? So I'm very much an empath, and I pick up on people's emotions, and it's kind of like the opposite with being an empath versus like having those premonitions, because with the premonitions it's like, why did I have that one? Whereas with being an empath, there have been times when I'm like, why didn't I pick up on that? Because I can pick up on things so much. And I think it's just one of those things where it's an ability, so it'll just happen, you know, when you can do things. It so it's definitely good for practice too, but I also just think if you have that ability sometimes it's just gonna happen because it's something that, you know, like my husband, I think a better example is my husband. He's very perceptive. So he can he's just a natural at picking up on little micro expressions or little things that people do or the way somebody says something, you know, and it's just like an ability or he's like kind of like wired that way. So I think it's that too. It's just you have that ability. So sometimes it just happens.
Joe Conjal has a question, and then Tom Nally actually has something to say. Chrisman, by the way, said exactly, Jesse, to what you were saying about what he had said.
So Joe's asking, have any of you watched the news, saw a story about someone who was missing or murdered, and then had a dream about it that gave you information that would help solve the crime? And if so, did you act on it? I didn't.
I never have.
I never have. No. So we're kind of like useless.
Thanks for pointing that out, Joe.
If you need to know if you're going to have your teeth taken out, I'm your girl.
Well, I have my trusty book about dreams that could tell you about teeth, but you already figured that one out.
Yeah, you really had his teeth literally. It was a literal dream.
That was very literal.
Yeah, but Tom Nally said, I've had premonition type dreams myself. All things that weren't really any importance, just random, like life events where I could quote what would be said or done. Very strange occurrence. Go ahead, Jesse. I think you were going to say something. No,
I was going to say it's funny because my daughter, who's 8, she, you know, if you meet her, I mean, you know, she's carrying on the tradition of the family, I guess. I don't know. The other day we had a neighbor send us a message on the Ring neighbor app, and they said, hey, just down the street, they said, look, everybody be on the lookout because I saw a Florida panther in our yard last night. The dogs went wild. It was 1:30 in the morning, and they went to check on it, and it was, you know, a freaking mountain lion. So they were like, you know, heads up and be careful. And so I told my husband, but I did not tell my kids because they're, you know, they'd be freaked out to go outside more than they are already. So I didn't want to scare them to be able to go outside and play and stuff. And then my daughter wakes up and the next day and she goes, oh, I had an awful dream. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk about it? And she's 8. And she said, I had a dream that Dad and I were attacked by a lion.
Yep.
And I was like, uh-oh. Like, you know,
those were her spidey senses picking up on the panther for real.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that's all it is. But, you know, I told my husband, I was like, let's keep an eye outdoors when you're with her.
Absolutely.
But I think it was maybe just her picking up on that somehow, that, you know.
I think that's
so,
what
too,
I think, that she picked up that there was a panther in the neighborhood.
Wild.
Rosalind Reed said, once I had a dream about 2 of my coworkers and later went to work to find out they both had the same dream with me and the other person in it. Group dream, nothing specific. We were just in the office.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? That's
so weird.
I know.
I wonder if you all got paid for that.
Yeah.
Are we on the clock?
I know, I was going to say.
Every time I dream about work, I tell my manager. I was
so
working
you get
all
paid.
night. I should get overtime.
Joe Conjal says, thank God I asked that burning question.
Yeah, thank
No,
you,
I would,
Joe, because now I'll act on it when I do.
yeah. No, it is. I'm a
I'm
massive.
just kidding. I haven't had it.
I'm a massive true crime fan, and it's definitely something that, like, if I had a dream or something, I would act on it because that's like what I took psychology in college, and it was mainly because of the whole, like, what makes a serial killer tick, and that there are serial killers out there right now, and I would love to catch one. I would love to put that person away, keep society safe. So yeah, but of course it doesn't happen.
This is interesting. Now, this is actually, I watched, I actually watched Tom's YouTube, so I've seen this, what he's talking about. He said, in regards to Joe's comment, I have had a dream of an old murder and then ended up doing a video about it, the infamous boy in the box from Philly. And yeah, and he brought us, he did a video of where they found it and stuff like that. And I think you talked about the little girl too, didn't you, Tom? And he says that was from the 1950s.
Can I ask
and
a
they
question?
had in recent times just found his identity. Rosalind didn't get paid.
That missed opportunity.
Who wants to ask a question?
Me.
Yeah.
Did Tom, I was wondering if he knew about that before he had the dream, or was the dream that made him research it? I wasn't able to tell by his comment.
And Tom, in answer to my question, Tom says, yes, there was a girl in the box too from the 60s. The boy was from the 1950s. Really sad. Well, we'll give him time to type that up.
And before it gets any later.
Oh, you're going to show my tutorial?
Well, we can do that, but I also want to get the drawing. We're going to have a drawing.
Oh, we're going to have a drawing. Yes.
Forgot all about that. It's for a
coffee mug.
Tampa Bay Spirits coffee mug. Yes. I remember what show I'm on right now. Okay.
Is it a book?
The first,
is it...
what is it? First person to email lesgre, that's LESGRE 28 at AOL.com will win a coffee mug that'll be from Tampa Bay Spirits. And
yes.
So it's be very spiritual coffee.
And we have a web page, Tampa Bay Spirits 1, and we have a little store on there where you can buy T-shirts and sweatshirts and coffee mugs and all kinds of
all the
fun
proceeds
stuff.
go to funding our
investigations.
Yeah, because we don't charge anything. So
keeping LLC and
keeping everything together, the website,
paying for the website.
So here is the first of our tutorials.
Because you asked for it, so we're giving it to you.
Here we go.
At Tampa Bay Spirits, we use a lot of different equipment. One of the things we use is a very ordinary little flashlight. You can get these most any place. They're the kind that you turn on here. There you go. Now it's on. That took a little bit of effort. We don't expect an entity to be able to do that, so we turn it off like this, so they just have to turn it on ever so slightly. Now, some people have said, well, being just off like this can make it heat up and it'll turn on and off by itself. We've never had that happen. We have set them out for 3 hours at a time here at home, and we've never seen it turn on by itself. And so we are pretty sure that we're communicating with something that is not what we would consider a living person. And it's been really great because you can ask all kinds of questions, ones that can be answered with yes or no. And you can even backtrack and ask the same question and see if you're getting the same answer. And so that way you can kind of validate if you're speaking with an intelligent haunt, an intelligent being, an intelligent spirit, whatever you want to call it, an intelligent entity. And it's a fun way to communicate with them and find out what they need or what they want or why they're there. And that's how you use a flashlight in an investigation.
You also
You're welcome.
use it to walk down the stairs so you don't kill yourself during the investigation.
So Tom Nally says, oh, yes, I knew about it prior to making the video. It was in the news a lot. And after the dream, I decided to finally do the video explaining the events leading up to the case.
Okay.
And in the video, I showed where he was found. Yep, where they took him initially to Potter's Field, and the cemetery he ended up in his newer tombstones after finding out his identity. Yeah, that's all on his YouTube page.
Okay.
The case was well known in the area since the 50s here in Philly. Oh, Marjorie Deering says, I still haven't received my mug. I think it's been spirited away. Oh, my goodness.
Marjorie, your mug is on the way. We had a little bit of difficulty with receiving it here, and then it was sent out. So it's on its way, I promised.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom,
Yes.
didn't you have like a spirit come to you that said she was murdered?
Maybe.
So what did you do to help her?
Awkward.
Just
No, I'm just
saying.
kidding.
You kept saying this. You were like in an older house and you kept seeing this woman like kind of
Yeah.
in Victorian type dress, and then you found out her name and you found her grave, right?
I never found her grave, but I did find out that the name that she gave me was the name of a person. Yep, that was buried there.
And she said she'd been murdered.
Yes. And it was from a really long time ago, hundreds of years ago. But I don't think that she was listed as being murdered, but she had persistently come to me to tell me that she'd been murdered.
So we
Yeah.
have a winner for the mug.
Oh,
Yeah, Joe Conchal has already emailed in.
Oh my goodness. He
We'll be
is
getting
on
that
the
mug
job.
out to you soon. Hopefully much faster than Marjorie's that went out to her, but we'll get that right out to you.
and
We'll
Robert
just
White
need
says,
you to email your address so we can send it.
yeah, Joe, did you hear that? Email them your address so that they can send it. Robert White says, hi all from Australia, Queensland.
Yeah,
And
good morning, Robert.
Marjorie Deering said, why Laura Thompson's name popped up on my
I
last
was
comment.
wondering
I
what
don't
that was,
know.
unless that was Laura Thompson commenting
some
on
kind-
Marjorie Deering.
Some kind of premonition.
Facebook user. Yeah.
And she wants to make sure you know that wasn't a complaint about the mug. She knows
Marjorie
they'll
has
get
told me
their
already she has plenty of coffee mugs, so she's not hurting.
attention. Tom Nally said, the girl in the box was never solved, and they still have not found her location at the Potter's Field to dig her up for DNA samples. Last
That's sad.
he had heard. And Joe Constrel says, awesome, thanks. Yeah, they're really cool mugs. Yeah, I did have that. I forgot about her. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had, and then I did have that one who we lovingly in our family call the captain, who stomped around our house for a long time. Dad and I brought him back from San Juan, Puerto Rico, after talking to him in the dungeon and being sympathetic.
I never paid any rent or anything.
I know.
It's terrible.
But for him, and I think this was probably this, for him, he just wanted people to know his story and know that he'd been unjustly imprisoned there in the dungeon. And I think that for her, she wanted someone to know what had happened to her, that she had been murdered, that she didn't, die of a heart attack or whatever, that she'd been murdered. So yeah, I did have those, but he was from the 1400s and she was from the 1800s, so the police wouldn't have cared a whole lot.
I have a question. I was wondering if anybody had any ideas what this may be. And I've heard some theories, but deja vus, which are, a little different than a premonition, but kind of along the same lines. What do you think that a deja vu means?
I don't know. It's funny you say that, because just like the other day I was telling my husband how I had this deja vu, and it was it was just a regular thing. I was like in third grade. We lived in Michigan and I was in class but it went on for a while, and it bugged me because there was something about it that I couldn't like figure out what it was. And it was one of those things where deja vu is usually just very random, mundane things that are happening. Like, you're going to put dishes into the dishwasher or something. That's how it happens for me. And this was like that. We were in a classroom and, the teacher asked a question and then one of the students answered, and it was just really this weird sensation. And it was maybe, so I was like in 3rd grade, maybe about 5th grade, that I realized I had dreamed that when I was in 2nd grade, like a year before, living in Chicago. And I had this dream of me being older and living. I didn't know where it was. It was a different state, but I could see my teacher, my classmates, the classroom and everything. And I remember it was a dream that I had. And the reason why I remember that dream, like why it stuck to me and it finally hit, like, oh, that was a dream, is it was one of those dreams that seemed so incredibly real. And I said to my husband, it's almost like you kind of time travel. I wonder if, because I'm not the only person who has said their deja vu, it was a dream that they realized that at a later point. So I don't know if it's something like that, kind of like this going into the future, but that's one of my theories about it. Otherwise, I don't know.
Chris Chrisman said, along the same line of what you're saying, I think deja vu is a memory of a premonition. And Joe Conjal said, there's no statute of limitations on murder. You need to act on
Give him a call.
What do you think, Beth? I think it could be like a time slip kind of thing. I get them a lot. Do you?
I get them a lot.
I do
Yes.
too.
And they are during very mundane.
Yeah.
It's so weird. But I've heard it explained at one point that our soul is telling us that we're on the right path. We're in the right place at the right time. And I thought that was thought-provoking.
Well, I'd like to think that because I get them a lot.
It could be all the things that, like if you go to the refrigerator and you're going to get something and you can't remember what it is.
Deja vu is helpful.
It's those things catching up to you.
So we have a letter.
I get them at work and I think, really, this is the right path? Come on.
Okay, I've got a quick question. And this is like not as just since we're talking about dreams, but does anybody else ever dream that you're somebody else totally different in a dream? Because I do.
Yes.
I do. I'm in somebody else's life and I'm like, who are these people and who am I? And I just wonder if anybody else does that.
Remember, Mom and Dad, I had that dream where I was like this character. I wrote it down because it could be a story, but I was like this. It was very kind of like sci-fi, and the stuff that she did, it was almost like kind of like a Laura Croft versus like Sigourney Weaver's character, an alien type thing, where she was just completely like this warrior and did all this crazy stuff. And it was funny because I was her, and I remember waking up and being like, that's not me. Like I would try to do stuff, but even if I wanted to, like I couldn't. She was saving people and fighting off all these. I couldn't tell in the dream if they were aliens or just very like some kind of advanced, like really militia type people. But there was stuff like out in space, and like she was fighting people that way, and she was like risking her life and doing all these crazy maneuvers, and it was very bizarre. I don't know if I've done that again or in the past. I don't remember, but that was very clear because it was so not my life. It's not definitely.
There's never been anything exciting like that. It would be like if I showed up mentally my dream is I'm in your dinner table and people are all just, I'm in a strange house and it's just weird.
That sounds, Joy, that sounds like astral projecting,
Yeah.
where you're showing up somewhere else, and like almost like what you talked about with your brother. Was it your brother?
Yeah.
And his wife and child, like, because you saw it all, like it was like you were there, and it was like when it was happening,
Right.
That when you said that earlier, I was like, it sounds like you were there, like,
It
I don't
felt
know.
like,
That's
I mean,
interesting.
it was very vivid and it felt like it, but I mean, obviously I was, 1,000 miles away. So,
Yeah.
Is it people you know, or you like? I don't.
no, people, when I have those dreams, they're people I do not know. And it's like, it's just a different house or people are different occupations, just like I'm in a stranger's house or something. Like,
Well,
it's
Joe
really
Conjo said, would that be a reincarnation dream? But you're talking about you're in a contemporary home.
Yes, no, it was no, I haven't been a warrior princess or anything like that.
It's funny.
I'm
everybody I know
nothing
that's
like Laura
reincarnated
Croft or
is
anything in that.
I just watch too much
Right.
sci-fi and action film.
Chris Chrisman said he used to have dreams of past lives when he was younger. Yeah, maybe that is what we call remote viewing.
I was
Joy.
gonna say it sounds like remote viewing.
You could be
Maybe.
doing that in your dreams.
But
Yeah.
Mom, when you remote view, you're
Yeah.
not in somebody else's body, so
No, I'm not.
you're just like kind of
Viewing
kind of like a fly on the wall type thing.
Yep.
So
for a butterfly. Let's be kind.
Well, they don't like butterfly. Mom doesn't like butterflies, right?
Yes. No.
Oh,
I like butterflies.
oh my God, a moth.
I don't like moths. I don't like bruja moths, witch moths. I didn't like those.
it's cousin Jen who's terrified of butterflies.
Yeah, Jennifer's.
Well, I know, but when Jen said that, Mom was like, I don't either. So,
Well, I don't like moths.
okay, fair.
When I don't like bats, because I got one caught in my hair. They go in the curls and they just go batty in there.
So that's why we don't go to any baseball games anymore.
Oh, did I bump? So Rosalind Reed says, in my dreams, I'm always floating above and behind my right shoulder, looking at myself as if I were somebody else. That's different too. Joe Conjal said, I would love to master remote viewing. That would be cool. Yeah, just meditate. Yeah, we've got to get to Chris Chrisman's dream morning.
There's
Page 2. Thank you.
Yes.
Tuesday morning, June 4th, 2019, I woke up from a terribly vivid nightmare dream. All that I could remember was an overwhelming sense of death and the number 7 dominating all. Even after copious amounts of coffee, I still could not shake the dread warning feeling off, partly because there was a new scar on my right forearm, shaped like a number 7. No cut, no blood, just a scar appeared overnight on my body. This was not my first precognition ESP warning that something was going to happen. I would usually just message the family asking if everyone was okay. But this was overwhelmingly different, stronger by far than at any other time in the past. I had to tell someone. I posted this to a private group of 8 special friends. 7 and death have been dominating my thoughts lately. I had a bad nightmare last night. 7 has appeared as a scar on my right forearm. I have no clue what that means, what the signs mean, only that it is a sign. Don't worry, I am fine. I just wanted to say thanks to all of you. We've had really awesome and fun conversations, and I PM'd most of you at one time, and I truly treasure your words of advice. The personal time you've taken to talk about stuff I needed to talk about. I'm not going anywhere, I don't think. And on Thursday evening, 2 days later, my best friend's brother died. So it's come full circle. Scientifically speaking, a true foretelling ESP, the strongest advance notice I've ever witnessed. Everything is truly connected. So, had a premonition about his best friend's brother's death, but I think a lot of premonitions are like that, where they're iffy. 7 in depth. That's all he got. They're
Yeah.
not always as clear as your son's, Beth, where
Yeah.
he could clearly see it. So, but yeah, so that's a lot of premonition dreams that people have had just in this small group of people.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
Paul Hollis, by the way, that little tutorial was for you. You want to know how to use all the equipment. So we'll be having them on one by one.
Do we have time for me to say one other thing really
Oh,
quickly?
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Because like I think sometimes you get things premonition wise that maybe weren't really intended for you, but for somebody else. Because one time I was in New York with my second husband. We were visiting my grandmother. I remember it was an Easter Sunday, and all of a sudden I was like, "We have to go," and my husband's like, "What?" I said, "We need to get home. We need to get home right now." We were like 2 hours away, so he's driving, and I'm actually getting shaky, getting really nervous, and I'm like, we gotta get home. He's like, calm down. He says, you're making me nervous. I'm like, it's bad. Whatever it is, it's bad. And we come down the hill, and the road is blocking. There are fire engines everywhere, and I'm like, oh no, it's our house, because our house is at the bottom of the hill, but it wasn't. It was the house up the hill had caught on fire. But
Wow.
this whole time, that's all I could think of. We got to get home. Something bad's happening. We got to get home. Wasn't meant for me, apparently, because it wasn't my house. It was somebody else's house. It was just, it drove me to all the way home. I mean, it was just pushing me to get home because I thought something was going to happen. And yet it wasn't. It was the house up the hill. So, yeah.
Yeah, you picked up on that energy. That's interesting.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously, I don't know who it should have gone to, but it wasn't like I couldn't do anything about it. And like I said, it wasn't my house. Nearly gave me a heart attack when they wouldn't let us down in all the fire, there were all these fire engines and stuff, and then it ended up, it wasn't the house. Thank God. I mean, and no one was hurt in the other house either. So that was good. But so who knows why you get signals.
Yeah, I know.
Interesting.
It is. As I said, Joe would like to master remote viewing, and we can talk about that. I can tell you how I started doing it because Beth said, you can do it. I said, I can't. She said, yes, you can. I
It's
can.
an amazing concept, and it's very shocking when you do it and you get validation from someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the government was doing it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the Men Who Stare at Goats?
It's Jericho's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie was based on that. Yes.
But yeah, so I've read about it too. So I mean, even the government.
At Stanford, I want to say.
I thought it was
somewhere in Berkeley.
Berkeley.
I think
Maybe it was Berkeley.
I think it was
Yeah.
Berkeley.
Berkeley.
San Francisco area.
Joe also says you can always come and rob the dad jokes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can confirm. Can
Yeah.
And
accurate.
Paul Hollis says, yay, I like technology. And Chris Chrisman said, it's nice to know there are others out there. Thank you. You're welcome. We can all be crazy together in the crazy boat.
I think it's good to. I'm sorry, Joan.
I was just going to say, Marjorie said, you're probably a very empathetic person, Robin, which, yeah, for sure she's an empath.
Yeah, I've been told that. So
yeah.
Take your word for it. Take everybody's word for it.
Roy is also. What were you going to say, Beth?
Oh, I think it's really important that whenever we get those strong feelings, that we do pay attention to them. And I credit those feelings one night for possibly saving us from a collision or possibly saving our lives. We were approaching an intersection and the light was just about to turn green for us to go. And I told my husband, Les, I said, just wait, just wait for a second. And somebody came through as the light, they went through on the red at a very high rate of speed, a large jacked up, like truck of some kind, pickup truck. and they passed us on a large road here in St. Pete. And he started to go because we had the green, and I said, "No, just give it a second. Just wait." They had gone through a little neighborhood and came out the other direction. And when they came out on the same road we were on, they flipped it over.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I am very thankful for my gift at times like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
To listen to the small voice.
I
Yeah.
think it's important too that you share it with someone. Like Jessie told the story about sharing with me and with her husband about that she was going to have a baby next year, and it was going to be a little girl, and you know that everything was going to be okay, and because that was all true. That was exactly true. And so every time you share that and there's someone else that can say, yes, you did tell me that. Because what happens with me, and I think this is probably pretty common, is I'm thinking, am I making this up? Did that really happen? Am I just thinking that now because I know this now? So if you share it with somebody else, they can say, you did tell me that. You did hear that. So, and that builds your confidence, I think.
And then learning to differentiate. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, learning to differentiate those things and something like anxiety, if you're somebody who struggles with something like that, you know, so it doesn't debilitate you from like just functioning in life and being like, I'm never going to leave my safety bubble, you know. But knowing when to listen and when to push through and go, okay, no, I can tell this is noise. This isn't anything.
As somebody with very strong anxiety, I'll call it that. So I've had to go through a lot to manage it. I have learned the difference. You can, so if you have anxiety and you're like, well, how do I know? You can learn what the difference is between anxiety and those kind of premonitions or those feelings, those gut feelings. There's kind of that knowing versus that fear, just, okay, I'm afraid, you know, type of thing. And it is possible. So I'm not perfect at it, but for the most part, I can tell the difference. It feels different.
Beth, you were going to say something?
Yeah, that's something that we do talk about when we go on investigations with our team, is that when you get any kind of message that coming through, whether it doesn't make any sense to you at the time, write it down. We have notebooks that we carry with us all the time. And I always ask people, please write it down. If anything comes through, even if it doesn't make sense. A lot of times when we go through our reveal with the homeowners and we mention these things that are written down that make no sense, the homeowners know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, we always try to pay attention to those little voices.
Right, exactly. So this is a Facebook user. Apparently you're on our, Tampa Bay Spirits. You have to
the group page.
Yeah, the group page. So sorry, your name isn't showing up. But this Facebook user said hello and says, my guardian woke me from my stroke. That's wonderful.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I am sure that happens a lot. Yeah.
Oh, it's Chanel.
Oh, it's Chanel. Oh, hi, Chanel.
Hi, Chanel. We didn't know. Chanel, Facebook user.
Yeah, you have to give permission. It's me, Chanel. You have to give permission next time for the next one. I don't know if you were on earlier, but this will be a monthly podcast now. We'll be on all the regular channels that we're usually on. But if you're using the Tampa Bay Spirit Facebook page, you have to give StreamYard permission to use your name. Right. I don't know why it's a Facebook thing with StreamYard.
Speaking of that, we are planning to do this on the last Thursday of the month. Same time, same place. and there'll be an event out there on Facebook and stuff. So we'll have giveaways. We'll have a different topic. I'm not sure what our topic is going to be yet. We're going to figure that out.
Does anyone have any requests of things they would want to hear
Well,
more
if there's-
about?
that's a
Yes.
good idea. Let's
Good
start it
idea.
out there.
Let's
If
do
anybody
that.
has any requests.
That's why I did the little tutorial, because Paul had said he wants to
There you
know
go.
how to use all of the tech that we use.
Also,
We do too.
if anybody would be interested in like sending in their stories, we could read them and share them if you want. And
Right. Anything
Um,
supernatural, basically paranormal.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
paranormal.
anything.
What about like angel stories? Because I have an angel.
Absolutely.
story.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like miracle things that it's like, how could that possibly have happened? You know?
UFOs, anything.
Cryptids, and
Cryptids.
if you want to share and have it be anonymous and not, you don't want to share your name or info, or if you do, that's cool too, but we could read the stories and talk about them and give a shape, can't speak, but a safe space to share
There
and
Yes.
talk about them and give our thoughts.
Chanel says, and this is the truth because we know Chanel. I mean, we didn't before we started our podcast, but we do now. She says, I'm full of miracle stuff and paranormal, and that is the truth. Joe Conjal said, reincarnation stuff may be always fascinating. It is.
Mhm.
You are right.
Okay. Well, does any one of us here have any more stories they'd like to share?
I could go on all night, so I'm not going to.
I know what you mean. You know, it's like when there's so many things in your life. My husband doesn't even second guess it. I mean, he doesn't even. I mean, he used to say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," but he doesn't even, because so
Right.
many weird things have happened. It's like, okay.
Yeah, like I said, my first and second husband and my kids are disappointed if I didn't know something in advance. I'm like,
Joe
If
Conjal
only it
says,
worked like that.
yes.
no, right? This was so much fun. Great show. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your stories. And Chanel says, my next life, I want to be a llama.
Noble thing to want to be. I love llamas.
I want to be a cat. Cats have the best lives.
Our cats do.
Yeah.
Dogs are pretty good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Ellis said, great show, great stories. Thanks to all.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, like Jesse
thanks for
said, I
being here.
know. This could be a safe space. So if everybody else thinks you're nuts, we're not going to think you're nuts.
Right. Right.
Because we went down that rabbit hole a long time ago. Chris Chrisman says, thanks for a great show. Yeah.
So,
Marjorie
and Marcia.
says,
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. It's really been fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there an email address, Dad, that they can share the stories, or how do you want, if people have something paranormal they've experienced that they want to share,
Yeah,
where is the
yeah,
best
they-
place for them to do that?
They can send it to carternovels@aol.com.
Because we check that every day, every
Yeah,
morning.
because we check that every day. And
There's one more comment.
another comment here.
Chanel. Joan, when I die, I will come see you.
Well, you don't have to wait until then. but-
Don't. Well, Chanel, though,
Yeah.
with bone cancer, and it's been a rough go.
Yes.
And
We've
when
been
you
praying for a
die,
while.
you can come and see me.
Yep.
I will talk with
The
you,
door is open.
and you know I love you. So.
Okay.
She was being serious, actually. Yes. We're getting, I think we've gotten all the comments done.
I think
Anybody
we've got
else
all
have
the
anything
comments
else
done.
they want to say?
So,
I'm good.
okay. March 30th, I think, is the last Thursday in March. So that's what we're going to target for our next show. Go watch for it on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
And until then,
Well, that's
Wait.
almost
that's almost
all.
it.
But
But
I
wait,
wanna-
there's more.
yes, everybody that's on screen with us, can you wait until after the last
Right.
commercial? And we want to talk a little bit before
Right.
we
Okay.
jump off. All right.
And thank you,
We're in
Robin, for
trouble.
being on the show. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Jess. And
Thank you for having me.
Thank
And
you.
of course-
It
Thank
was
you for
great seeing everybody.
Leslie Beth as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone in the audience and for their participation. Everybody told great stories. Chanel wants to say, they gave me 16 months. I have done 14 months. So my milk date is coming up. Yeah, but we don't believe in milk dates.
Yeah, we don't go by
Chanel.
that.
And you've
You're
been
going to beat that one. You're going to make it past that.
fighting the good fight. She's had stem cell surgery already, and that was rough.
Yeah.
Joe Conjal says, and Marjorie and I will be waiting for our mugs.
It's in the mail.
Well, I hope you don't get mugged. Maybe that was a premonition. So until next time.
That's all, folks.